morning, everyone. Thank you so much to Dario and to the team for organizing this event, letting all of us focus sometimes, some days on the customers, the customer experience, and the customer engagement. It's a rare discipline, at least for some of us working in headquarters. How many of you are from headquarters? And how many are from local teams? Great, good mix. How many of you have a background from sales? Some? And who has ever been a customer? All of us. When speaking about customer experience, for me it starts with the customer engagement strategy, and that's what I'll focus on today. Customer engagement strategy for a company, for Leo, where I come from, is a cross-functional discipline. That's why it's important that we have people who have been customers, people who have been in sales, people who have been in local functions, but also people who are working with access, working with medical, working in marketing. Because as a company, we should have one customer engagement strategy. Maybe we have, differentiation from one brand to another. In most cases, we probably will. But the customer should see it as one customer engagement strategy. At Leo, we have a process where our customer engagement strategy starts with a brand strategy. So when we do our brand building blueprint, where we recently have taken steps, instead of having, one brand way of doing brand building for one brand, another one, when we did it for the second brand or the third brand, now we have one brand building way of working. It starts with the market situation analysis, second, the brand strategic choices, so that when we do our customer engagement strategy, we can take point of departure in the strategic imperatives, in the critical success factors. And that's also what we can measure, or at least what we aim to measure, because it's not always a one-to-one, but aim to measure, are we reaching the critical success factors with our customer engagement strategy. So we have the part to the left, then we have the customer engagement strategy, and we also think customer activation. So we have the same people working from global, working with our local teams, doing the customer engagement, customer activation planning, which is in fact the cycle planning. All our affiliates have, the same cycles. We have 3 cycles in a year, so that we can deliver global content to those cycles. Because I think, as we all know, and to be honest with you, of course, part of that is wishful thinking. Because it is a process towards it. And when I say wishful thinking, when we deliver global content, it's because we have aimed to deliver global content. Leo has for several years had a strong, ambition that 80% of local execution should be based on global content. In reality, we are far from that. But the reason why we are far from that is because when we deliver something from global, in most cases we are late. We know that France needed a long time in advance in order to be able to implement it. We know that other countries maybe needed less time in advance, but still they may need it 3 months before the cycle starts. So if we, 4 months before the cycle starts, says, okay, we are 2 months delayed, then they'll have to do their own stuff. But we are right now, based on this, what we call the B3 plan, streamlining our way of working so that we can, at least hope for being able to deliver on time. And in reality, on time is a key critical success factor for us. It's of course also delivering according to the needs of the local team. So we also have co-creation as part of it. And in the end, when we talk about execution, we have a team of channel specialists working with us out of Hungary. We also have some of our technical partners, some of those participating here, Antil for IVA, approved email with Activator, We have Shower Thinking supporting us with Salesforce Marketing Cloud, creating journeys. And then we have a web technical partner called AKQA. But we also have an internal team who simply do the localization, because localization is difficult. It's difficult if we give it to an Italian agency, or we give it to even a British agency, or even a whatever Japanese agency. So we're really trying to do as much as possible. We're paying it for the affiliates, because otherwise we couldn't attract them to use the resources in Hungary. So we're paying for the affiliates for the localization. The only thing is that they raise the ticket and say we need that kind of content, and we will provide it to them in a very transparent way. And we will also support for the channels where we can the execution part of it, meaning if it's publishing at web, or if it's executing the customer journey based on Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So that's our model of working. Speaking about customer engagement, and of course that's coming back to the customer experience, we need to focus on the customer. We need to work on creating this behavior change with our different ways of impacting the customer, independently of channel. And therefore, when we talk about customer engagement strategy, it takes point of departure in understanding who is our customer. Not necessarily all customers. What is also an important element when we talk about, from the brand building to the customer engagement plan, is that we focus on the target patient. And for that target patient, the segment of customers who are most important for us to engage with that target patient. Because we cannot be everything for everyone. Second question, who of you think that customer experience is the most important aspect when engaging with our customers, creating the right customer experience? Please raise your hand if you think customer experience is more important than the product. Okay, so who thinks that the product is more important? Maybe no, we have nobody working with Wegovy here. So I think if we all had brands like some, maybe we don't need so much customer experience. Data shows that it's 50-50. Of course, our customers will not prescribe our drugs if data aren't right. But again, we also know that one of the reasons why we have reps is because reps can provide a nice smile. Reps can provide a nice, atmosphere. Reps put a human face to the pharma company. And of course, it's a challenge doing that, in our digital channels. It's different. But of course, we would say at the same time, customer experience in digital channels is to have, quick load rates, to have user-friendly emails, easy to read, to personalize, and so on, which I think many of us are trying to do. And why am I to speak about customer experience, and why am I, or customer engagement? One of the reasons probably is that throughout my career, I started working with IBM many years ago at a time when IBM was the Apple. It was the most admired company in the world. Some of you now have an idea about my age. IBM had a very strong customer engagement strategy at that time. Many resources focusing on all the relevant industries, and a deep industry understanding so that IBM could provide, solutions to the industry. That was at the core of that. I started as an IBM rep, but after some time, that strategy didn't work as well. Apple and others arrived to the market with Microsoft. So IBM was forced to change. It was a really interesting change because instead of having the IBM rep, IBM created a model, which I was part of, where the focus was, let's use the human resources when we have hot leads, or when we have leads who it's worth engaging with. Let's create this funnel of activities so that we can identify when a customer is close to evaluating, should we choose that solution or another solution. Instead of spending our resources on visiting customers you say on a regular basis, monthly basis, just because it's part of the target plan or the call plan. My second company was Novo, also had a very strong focus and for their customer engagement. That was the disease focus, diabetes management with insulin, worked together with a J&J company providing blood glucose monitoring as well, so that the whole package of diabetes management could be provided to the physicians, who then could be provided to the patients. It was also a strong customer engagement strategy. Still, and that was a real surprise for me, and that's why I bring it up, when I arrived at Novo, having worked with IBM, been through the transformation, I was thinking, wow, they're old-fashioned. They only use reps. So after some time, I joined my third company, which was Pfizer. Pfizer had a really strong customer engagement strategy. It was, at that time, Pfizer was only focusing on general practitioner, not only, but the majority of Pfizer's focus was on general practice, with very strong positions in cardiovascular, in erectile dysfunction, in CNS, where competing with Lundbeck, and had this model of saying, okay, if you want to participate in our educational activities, then you need to see a rep. So Pfizer provided really, really interesting educational activities, brought customers to the headquarters in New York. So if you really saw a lot of reps, then you got a free ticket to go to New York to do some educational training. That was in the old days. We cannot do that anymore. But that worked at that time. It worked really, really well. When I joined Pfizer as a marketing services manager, I had a book, The Death of the Salesman. And since I now thought, okay, Novo was old-fashioned, Pfizer was more modern, I put The Death of the Salesman on my desk. And there was all the sales managers. When I joined Pfizer, we had 35 reps in Denmark. After 5 years, we had 120 reps. So it was very provocative, and it was probably more my naive way of trying to make my message, because reps continued to have the key role in pharma. But the customer engagement strategy worked well. My fifth company is Leo Pharma. I've been with Leo Pharma for more than 10 years. We have, just like Lundbeck has CNS, Novo has diabetes and now also obesity, we have a very strong disease focus, being dermatology. We are the little brother of the three, with Novo being standing out, as you know. When I joined, it was the most profitable of the Danish companies. Now, for the last 5 years, we haven't earned any money. We've been through a really strong transformation. It was a very European-focused company. Now we are made, aiming to do, strongholds in US, Japan, China, and that, of course, requires a lot of investments. We are also focusing on biologics, whereas when I joined, it was topicals. So that has also been a big transformation, and of course, it's difficult to earn money in such a process. Our focus is still, the disease area, but it's also changing a lot, going from topicals to biologics, the way of working. When we talk about customer engagement strategy, you saw the model with what we call B3, and then customer engagement strategy coming after the brand planning. We have 4 steps. One is understanding our customer. Then it's understanding our assets. Assets is also, engagement assets, not just the brand, but what do we have? It could be events, conferences, data coming out. Then we aim to walk the shoes of the customer. Is this something which will bring the customer, which will be attractive to the customer, and also be able to progress the customer through the funnel? And lastly, measuring and follow up. The way we focus on the customer in the process is through a number of what we call tools. So we have different tools. One is the profiling part, understanding what motivates the customer, understanding what makes them get out of bed in the morning, understand what's their engagement pattern. Secondly, it's understanding, okay, what is the behavior we see today and what is the behavior we want to see tomorrow? What's the behavior change? maybe initiating the first patient, maybe going from being unaware to being aware, or from being aware to becoming a trialist. Then we have an understanding of how can we access that? How many of our target customers do we have access to? With reps? In some countries, we still have, you can say, target customers are those that we see with reps. But at the same time, as we see from data from IQVIA, that in Germany, UK, the Nordics, only 50% of physicians prefer to see reps. So there's a mismatch if our target customers is those that are seen by the reps. So we need to understand, is that a mismatch, or how do we engage with the rest? But also consents and so on. And we also need to understand their consent and channel preferences. So after having this view of the customer, we go to what do we have to provide to them. We're managing key messages as strict as we can from, you say, global to local, because we have seen, even though we think that sometimes we have the same brand strategy, key messages can, you say, change along the road from global to local. So we have a strong focus on the key messages, but also understanding that key messages may differ from one target segment to another, but of course still be consistent with the global brand plan. And the key events and publications, as I mentioned. If there's a conference, if there's you can say an American conference, European conference, local conference, new publications coming out, how can we use that as sort of to orchestrate our activities around that? And then walking the shoes of our customer, we have this, what we call the customer engagement plan. So we aim not to have too many different customer engagement plans because we cannot manage it. But we have a customer engagement plan, which is the story we want to tell for the customer, for the target segment. What is it that we want to tell? What critical success factors is it that we are focusing on? What the behavioral change that we are aiming to do? How do we want to measure it? What's the channels of engagement? Do we have the right mix of channels? We have had a very strong focus on owned channels and less focus on earned and paid channels. And we know, and I'm saying that because we know it, not because we're good at it, that earned channels is something which has a very high impact on physicians. But if we don't really prioritize working on own channels, creating our, you say, key opinion leaders, getting peer-to-peer engagement, then it's difficult to do. So that's a high priority for us. And of course, in the end, when we've done that, we need to brief agencies and so on. Lastly, measuring and following up, having the lagging measures. So we need to, in the plan, also identify how will we measure that behavior change. Market share increase, sales increase, and the leading measures, click rates, what they visit and see on our website. That was what I intended to say about customer engagement strategy. Any questions? Please.
Thank you very much for the presentation. What I particularly appreciated is that it was very concrete, so thank you for that. I have a question regarding the customer engagement framework that you developed and how that syncs in with the standard brand planning process. So have you, I assume the brand planning would have followed a specific template already pre-customer engagement. Have you taken that and you build the customer engagement strategy in? So for example, that the presentation is not done anymore by activity, but that everything is ordered by customer segment. Like, what was the concrete difference before, after?
It's a really good question. We got to customer engagement strategy a bit. We had executional excellence in our previous brand plan, and now we have customer engagement strategy, and we can only do that by looking already when we do the market situation analysis on the customers, for example. So we have now elements of customer engagement strategy in the different phases of creating the brand plan, understanding the target segment, understanding our access to the target segment, understanding how that influences the brand strategic choices, and so on. Does that answer your question or not?
Yeah, and do you have these templates you showed now? Do you have them like be part of the brand plan now?
Exactly.
Do you mandate this consistent way of working?
In fact, we do it very cross-functional now because we've learned that. So we just last week we had a big workshop with more than 100 people representing all the brands, with customer engagement being part of the brand planning process. So that when we do the workshops, it is cross-functional, including customer engagement. Other questions? There's one down here.
It's just a quick follow-up to
Yeah.
the workshop that you just held. Is that done at a global level? And then if so, can you talk about how that's then localized?
It is done at global level. So you can say it's first done with the global brand teams. And then when we've done the global brand plan, we have, you can say, depending on the importance of the different countries, we do it either at local level or we do it, you can say, across countries. But only when the global brand plan and the global customer engagement strategy is defined.
And can I just ask, for those participating in the workshops, how many of them are facing customers frequently?
That's a really good question. At the global level, it's very few. Good question, something to improve. Thank you.